Hey everyone, this is WobblyWallaby. Many people have asked me which classes I would recommend in Ragnarok Mobile for PvE instances, PvP, boss hunting, and farming. Today I'll share my top recommendations and explain why I use certain classes. I did a guide 6 months ago, but a lot has changed since then. This guide will cover both free-to-play and pay-to-win options and include testing I've done on my free-to-play accounts. Also great news, I have codes to give away. I have 10 C, 10 global, and 10 EU codes. In the comment section, say which class do you use for PvE and PvP. Please include your Discord ID and which server you play on, such as C, Global, or EU, and winners will get codes starting November 22nd, 2024. I'd love to know which classes you play, so I look forward to reading everyone's comments. Now for a short word from today's sponsor. I'm constantly listening to podcasts and music, and I use headphones a ton throughout the day, so I'm quite picky about them. So I was happy when Lytmi sent me some headphones to try out. These are the Cozy Clip earbuds, and the name says cozy, but I was wondering just how cozy these headphones could be since I wear headphones for hours each day. The headphones are 5.3 grams or 0.18 ounces. They're really lightweight, so sometimes I forget they're even on me when I'm not listening to anything. The C-shaped nickel titanium ear bridge clips securely and comfortably on my ear. I've had other headphones fall out of my ear when running or exercising, so I'm glad these won't fall out and get damaged or lost. Since the headphones are hovering just outside your ear, I don't feel the discomfort I get from other brands I've used in the past which feel like earplugs. These feel super comfortable while still providing great sound. The open back design is great since it lets you enjoy music while still being aware of your surroundings. I've walked around with these outside and I can still hear traffic properly so I don't get hit by a car or cyclist. For the bass, I like to listen to bass-heavy music when editing my videos. I can hear the deep and enhanced bass sounds that keep me energized and pumped, so the sound quality is there too. Next, they have the dual connectivity, which I didn't even know was possible for Bluetooth headphones. I've had the headphones connected to my desktop and my phone. I can play YouTube videos on my computer, and if I pause, then play music on my phone, I can now hear the music on my phone without needing to disconnect or reconnect my headphones, which makes it super convenient. There are also nice touch controls which you can tap the touch area to use. For example, I've been double tapping to answer calls, play and pause, as well as triple tapping to go to the previous and next tracks. If you're looking for new headphones, check out Lytmi Cozy Clip Open Earbuds. I'll put a link in the description with a 10% discount code if you use WobblyWallaby. Make sure you check them out. Thanks to Lytmi for sponsoring this video. First, let's begin with PvE. If you want a good DPS with AoE who can have convertible elemental damage and has high survivability, then Rathgracy is excellent. The biggest selling point is her survivability since her feathers allow her to not get one-shot by bosses. For pay to win, I think she's fallen out of favor unless you're Dark Converting in White Star Airship or Pay Secret Realm, then you can take advantage of her holy damage better. I'd say she's more of a free-to-play to semi-free-to-play class if you don't want to die. Here's a clip of me using Rathgracy on my 15% deposit account. She can survive, but the biggest problem is she can't deal enough damage to solo it. Now if you have a saint to support you, then you'll do just fine. Rathgracy has plenty of amazing skills, but 3 I'd like to highlight are the 30% skill damage increase from Valkyrie, which lets you easily hit your 50% skill damage target for legend instances, Blade of Order, which reduces the target physical defense by 10% and stacks 5 times, which means you can get away with 150% ignore defense in cases you lack ignore defense and chance. Also Divine Wing Armor, which many see as a regenerating anti-one-shot protection, and I think this is the best survivability skill of any DPS in the game. Next is Khalitzburg, I think one of the best free-to-play to pay-to-win DPS classes out there if you don't care about survivability. She has insane damage potential with high DPS and also does AoE damage with convertible elemental damage. The idea is to take down the boss before all your anti-fatals run out. Some notable skills that make her busted are her core hero passive that can debuff targets to take 30% more damage per doom, Flower Desperation which gives 30% penetration and skill damage, this definitely helps you hit the critical stats, and the Blossom Tea which gives 1% ignore defense for every 1% penetration, making hitting ideal ignore defense very easy. I don't think there's any other class that can solo clear Legend Isles for 1 with 15% deposit. Here's my ult attacking the Legend Golem. Even though she lacks survivability, there are certain bosses that you can avoid damage and also time your anti-death. For many classes, getting hit by the instant death from the golem is the problem. Even though Rathkrisi can survive being hit, she can't survive the instant death. As with all hero classes, you need to be lucky with your rune rolls, but she's still powerful even without 7/7. She's able to solo things, but if you have a saint to support you, then you'll definitely be able to do this very easily because you won't have the lack of survivability anymore. Faith Pray will help a ton. Here my alt takes on the golem. I'll show you my gear, it's definitely not super optimized. Here's your shadow equipment, oracle mirror, and relic. Here I proved that my vendor handbook deposit is at 15%, which is very achievable, and I have a link in the description if you want more details. This is my main class that I use on almost every weekly instance. The only one I don't use it on is TTL since I need taunt and also to kill the Tesseract, which Khalitzburg doesn't do very efficiently. Next is Saint. From free to play to pay to win, this is the best support class in the game. The class is mandatory in PvE instances for the buffs, and more recently you can also play as a debuffer by dark converting in instances like White Star Airship and Panepe Secret Realm. My wife plays Saint and she has kept me alive since we started together in this game. This class can be free to play friendly, and I have a free to play Saint account as well, which can survive in instances and do a great job. Now the 3 skills I want to highlight. First is Resurrection. In case your teammates die, bringing them back to life is absolutely crucial. Next is Faith Pray. This keeps the primary DPS alive and is ideal for classes like Khalitzburg and Fenrir who are very fragile. Next is Kikansha Heal, an AoE healing that prevents your team from dying. Next is Lytmi Ad, who is the best PvE magic DPS class. This was an event class and is one of the best damage dealers and also heavily buffs teammates. It has fast AoE damage, good survivability, and good buffs for your party. This is the magic DPS PvE class I use for PvE. If you really must go down the magic route, this is definitely the best class for that. Now this was the magic DPS class many people were hoping for, but unfortunately this was a collab class, so it cost money and was limited time. Hopefully they will rerun this. There are 3 skills of interest. First is the Magic Panda Tofu, which deals a ton of damage with high frequency and deals both water and fire damage. Both elements do pretty well in instances, and having 2 elements provides more flexibility against certain targets. Next, Mountain Treasure Hotpot is great for party buff for physical and magic teammates. For yourself, the Radiant Dragon Flame Ruin can give you a lot of skill damage too. Next, Crystal Phoenix provides anti-death for you and your party, which is great for survivability. Next is Infernal Armor, one of the best White Star Airship damage dealers. This class can scale extremely well due to its use of physical and magic attack, magic defense, and Vit. Also, if you're Whale, this is one of the most unfair classes you can play since you can scale those attributes like crazy. The most busted skill is Sink or Swim, since you can boost your MDef like crazy with MDef gear build, then cast Sink or Swim, and then switch back to your normal DPS gear via your Yimmers. You'll be able to retain your massive amount of magic attack from this. I've seen people reach more than 100,000 magic attack with this technique, which is pretty crazy. Next for skills, Slashlight is great since it does damage over time and is AoE. Unfortunately, you are stuck to fire with some passive that provides some holy attack too. Unfortunately, since it's primarily fire, this does suffer in the Ghost Palace instance since the target is fire. Next, Lestan has great survivability with 8 seconds of invulnerability, and I use this for TTL floor 1 because of this and its taunt. Besides TTL, I also use it for White Star Airship. If you want to carry White Star Airship and can scale up high deposits and MDef gear, I'd highly recommend this class. This was a paid class and was from the Ronin collab, but it has returned once before, so maybe we'll get it once again. Now, before I move on to my PvP choices, I do want to mention that the PvE ones can also be used for PvP. I've seen Khalitzburg, Rathkrisi, Saint, and Lytmi Ad used, so it's not as if they're just stuck as being good PvE classes, they also have many things that are good for PvP as well. Next are my PvP recommendations. First is Jormungandr, who has high damage, insane range, great buffs, great debuffs, and temporary magic immunity. I've seen many competitive 6v6 teams use Jormungandr, and he is also great for GVG as well. He can also hit high ignore magic defense pretty easily with his class specific weapon. This is currently my main PvP class that I'm investing in since it's so broken. Luckily, this is a class anyone can access as it wasn't a paid class. Jormungandr has lots of busted skills and passes, but 3 I want to bring up are Serpent Domain, which is a big debuff on opponents, among that reducing the debuff reductions by 50% and raising your own debuff skills by 30% while you're in the domain. Next, Mortal World Python transforms you into a snake, restores HP by 100%, unlocks the Fire Breath and Venom Erosion skills, and turns AoE effects on enemies into Serpent Domains and more. It is great for survivability and annoying to deal with these new skills. Next, Plunder of Fate, which you can trigger from his auto attack and core hero passive. The most insane thing is stealing clearable buffs that opponents get, and in addition you steal 30% magic penetration. This is crazy annoying skill to deal with. Next, Saint shows up again in PvP as a crucial buffer and debuffer. Having a Saint is vital for any party, and every team will benefit from having one. My wife uses her Saint account in PvP and has kept our team alive for a very long time. There are great skills to decrease damage that depends on the situation, so it takes a lot of researching to see what skills counter what. If you want to keep your team alive and be tanky, this is the class for you. This class is great for free to play to pay to win, as you can be effective even without a great Avenger handbook. You will need to focus on survivability gears though. Again, Saints have many useful skills, but for PvP 3 I want to mention are Deny, which silences the enemy and makes them unable to use items, Kyrie Ellison for damage protection, and Clearance for expelling debuffs. Next is Soulbinder, who is a great support class who has insane buffs and debuffs, and I often see Soulbinders in 6v6 teams. If you want to annoy others, this is the class for you. Similar to Saint, you can also be great at supporting from free to play to pay to win, you just need to be tanky. And also Soulbinder is available for free. Now Soulbinder has a lot of great PvP skills, but 3 I want to bring up are Heart of Darkness, which causes the enemy to hit their own teammate when they use their ranged damage skills, Withered Curse, which causes HP loss and cannot be revived on sight. Next, Soul the Priest casts Lex on the targets, making them take extra damage. There are many useful spirits, and some do buffs and some do debuffs, but there are definitely a lot of good options to use. Next is Thor. He has insane damage potential, massive AoE to reveal players, and the ability to be tanky when needed with Storm Barrier. Unfortunately, this is a limited time paid class, so we'll have to wait for the next rerun. The 3 skills to bring up. First is Trial of Storm, which hits 12 meters and up to 10 enemies and nullifies hiding for 5 seconds. Next is Lightning Cling, which tows enemies and debuffs them too. They can be clumped together to get hit by AoEs. Next, Elemental Sense makes incoming damage to be wind when using Storm Barrier. You can wear armor or use relics to reduce wind damage, causing you to be very tanky. Next is Fenrir, one of the best auto attack classes in PvP. It has high damage, can potentially cause infinite freeze with the Pouring Ice Cube and Stormy Night Star card, and has good survivability with Moon Shadow Barb and Lunar Eclipse. This class is a free class and is great if you started as a Stellar Hunter and wanted a strong class that is capable in PvP and PvE. 3 skills I want to highlight are Moon Shackle, which makes targets unable to move and reduces their attack for 5 seconds. This is great for trapping people so you can burst them down. Next, Ice Trail, which chains and tows 4 enemies. Enemies also take more damage and get hit with AoE from Fenrir's auto attack. This is quite annoying to deal with. Next, Frost Rune Arrow gives 30% auto attack damage, which is huge, and also reduces enemies' attack speed and movement speed for 5 seconds as a debuff. For the PvP classes covered, they can be used for PvE too. Jormungandr is not the most efficient, but he can clear instances if needed. Soulbinder can also be great support for your team by buffing them up for PvE instances. Thor and Fenrir also have high DPS and are capable of soloing instances too, but since I wanted to limit it to 5 for PvE, I had to exclude these classes. Next is MVP hunting. The king is definitely Saitama. He has insane damage, fast movement speed, and elemental convertible damage. Even if you can't one-shot, you have a fast hit to finish it off. Here I wasn't able to one-shot the APOC Firelord Kaho, so the successive attacks finish it off, which is great. He is a great MVP hunter for competitive channels, as you can one-shot and steal MVPs too. Unfortunately, this was an event-only class, so let's hope they bring it back. Saitama is my main MVP hunting class since I love the massive amount of damage it does, so I can easily get the last hit, or actually kill the boss in one shot. Now for skills, Enforcement of Justice is his one-shot ability. It's great that it ignores defense and has high damage scaling. Next, fast moves give 50% move speed, which lets you get to MVPs faster. The more movement speed you have is always vital for MVP hunting competitively. Next, Successive Attack is the follow-up in case you can't one-shot. It's excellent for APOCs or high-end MVPs on the board. Next is Heinrich, who has high burst damage, fast speed, elemental convertible damage, and some decent follow-up. Heinrich is the best free class that anyone can buy, so it's free to play friendly. For his skills, Heinrich has a lot of good ones, but some to mention are Fire Strike, which has a long range, and also has high damage modifiers. In addition, it's also elemental convertible. Next, Cast Blade lets you get 30% move speed if you're using 2 daggers, which is great for more movement speed. Next, Unyielding gives you 50% damage increase for being above 60% health, which is great. Next is Wataru, who has a collab class, so this is a paid class. This class nukes really hard, but its damage is neutral. For his skills, Dragon King's Rage has a lot of damage scaling since it's based on self-destruction. Self-destruction damage is scaled on SP, HP, Vit, and attack, so you can do a ton. For speed, Anti-Gravity Armor gives you 24% movement speed, and the Rapid Armor can give you up to 25% extra movement speed. I used to see Wataru more, but I think these days Saitama is dominating the boards more, so it's less popular. Next is Novice Guardian, another good MVP hunter. However, this class is less of a heavy hitter and more of a class that can precast Card Tornado to take down bosses. I used to use this all the time for boss hunting, and it can take down bosses quickly with his movement speed. I still see people using this class on the MVP board, but it's definitely less popular than before. Next are the skills of interest. Card Tornado can be precast, which is great for hitting bosses right away as they become vulnerable or spawn. It also has a lot of great damage modifiers, but unfortunately is stuck to Wind Element. Next is the Ruthless / Third Line Rune, which lets you completely ignore defense, which is what made it busted back in the day. Next is Hallucination Walk, which gives you 50% move speed for some great speed. Next is Lightbringer, who's ideal for low to mid board for MVP hunting. This is great for free-to-play players since it's very strong. Lightbringer's Pioneer and Machine Revolution combo does quite well and does a lot of damage early on. For skills, the Pioneer is elemental convertible, but people often use Fire since Fire most benefits from the weapon Avalanche. For most low board to mid board MVPs, it's fine to use Fire. Next, Machine Revolution is neutral and scales well. This looks similar to Wataru, but Wataru's damage scales much higher. Next, Anti-Gravity Armor gives great movement speed and can benefit from the Rapid Armor Ruin. For boss hunting, you can also use PvE classes too. I've had many times where I use Khalitzburg because it's too lazy to switch, and she can also one-shot many things and take down APOC bosses, so don't feel like these are the only classes you can effectively kill MVPs with. Next is farming, and I'll begin with the most free-to-play friendly one that I recommend, which is Stellar Hunter. This class is great from early to late game since you have great movement speed and your AoE is very flexible. Stellar Hunters do well in late game farming maps as well, such as the Hunting Ground maps, which are some of the most profitable maps in the game. Next are some of the skills of interest. Meteor Fission is what gives you your AoE. For range, you have 8.5 meters, which is great. You also get 30% movement speed when mounting your warg. The faster you move, the faster you can reach your next target and earn more Zenny. Next, Lightbringer is another great farmer who can do AoE, easily hit max movement speed, and get extra drops in Zenny from his passives. This is currently the main farming class I use because I can also craft alloys and this class earns a ton of Zenny. The popular endgame strategy is to do the near instant arm cannon build in the Hunting Ground maps. This is one of the most profitable strategies in the game. Now this build is more mid to late game since there is a higher gear requirements compared to Stellar Hunters. Some skills of interest include Arm Cannon, whose cast delay can be reduced a ton to be near instant. Fundraising and Greed are great too since it gives you more Zenny and drops. These are definitely the most unfair passives for farming. Next is Gunslinger, one of the best farmers in the game, but it all comes down to how lucky you are to get a high Flightfire Ruin. You need the third line and also pray for a high first line, ideally you have 70% or higher. If you have lower, then it's better to just stick with Stellar Hunter. Also for further range, having access to the God Rifle helps a lot too, so try to make sure your guild has one. This class is difficult to build because the AoE depends on both skill damage and auto attack damage, so it's one of the more difficult ones to gear up. This is definitely a mid to late game strategy, although I have seen some people create alt gunslingers and farm low level maps with some success. Next, your auto attack can have crazy range. Here you can see I have a range of 12. For the Ruin, having a third line with the high first line is critical to play this class, so pray for good RNG. Next, for the 12 meter range, that is caused by the rifling upgrade that gives 3, and then 3 from the God Rifle, and 1 from the set bonus from the Jaeger combat uniform. If you don't have the God Rifle, it may not be worth playing Gunslinger, so you might want to just stick with Stealth Hunter or Lightbringer instead. Next is Phantom Dancer, who has great potential since you can spawn 3 shadows with the Blurred Light and Shadow Star Ruin with the third line. These shadows can help you attack mobs at the same time, acting like a wide range AoE. You also have passives to get more drops, but it's nowhere near as good as Lightbringer. If you're looking for the 4th best, then this is the class for you. This might come in handy if you ever do group hunt and you need another class. I've also seen people create low level ults for Phantom Dancer as they can farm the low level maps with some success. Finally, it is Begetter. I personally don't like Begetter because it's not optimized well without some, well, let's just say manual farming. This class also works best on maps that have fixed spawn points with high densities, and unfortunately many high level maps just don't have that. This class has potential, and I mostly see people use it at lower level maps with lower level characters. Hopefully the devs can fix this so it'll be more optimal one day for offline battle. Well, that's all. I hope you enjoyed learning about my class recommendations. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Here's a video that I recommend, and if you want more class recommendations, check out this playlist over here.